Becoming an expat teacher opens up a world of possibilities beyond the four walls of a classroom. There are different ways to become an expat teacher, from volunteering to being an international school teacher, being an online teacher, or a tutor. There's so many ways for you to get into teaching, even if you don't want to stay in the classroom. Today, we're going to be sharing some of those routes, and I hope that you will find one that you will just suit your lifestyle perfectly. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Janet and this is Diaspora Doodles, where I get to doodle away and tell you from my experiences how I've been able to travel the world through this little noble profession called teaching. When you talk about teaching, a lot of people have an idea of a crusty old woman in a classroom, bent over by the burden of trying to get children to understand concepts that they have no interest in understanding. However, if you stick with me, you will find out that I talk about teaching as if it's a way of life that everyone should embrace. Today, I'm going to be sharing some top niches in teaching that people don't really think about when they think about teaching. The first one, being an international school teacher. If you've been watching me up till now, you will know that I talk about international teaching a lot because that's the majority of my experience. I've worked in public schools only on two continents. The rest of the continent, I've been an international school teacher and I've enjoyed. The international school teaching scene has a lot of diversity. It has a lot of experiences. It gives you the chance to travel the world. So you could be working in Oman one year, and the next year you're working in Egypt. The next you're working in Norway, and after that you're working in Holland. Does it sound like my experience? Yes, it does. I've been able to see the whole world just because I teach, and you can too. Another area you need to look at is language centers. You see, language centers are all over the world. You can also say the opportunity to teach and travel is not just found in English language teaching. You can teach Spanish in the UK, for instance, or you can teach Mandarin in Spain. You can teach any language to a different audience as long as you have the proficiency to teach, and this will help you travel the world. Take English, for instance. Some people have made a career out of teaching English as a foreign language, and with that, they've traveled around the world. They do not have the cushy contracts that teachers in international schools have, but they still travel. This is good for someone who's young, just starting out, trying to travel and get some pedagogy into their portfolio. They will see the world just because they've chosen to teach. So that's another way. Another way to teach and travel is by doing university placements. So I remember that when I was doing my IT, my industrial training back in Nigeria, I came across a woman who was from the University of Birmingham, and she was in Jos at the National Veterinary Research Institute in Nigeria. I was doing my industrial training there at that institute as well. And so we both met there and it was fantastic. Years later, when I switched to teaching, when I'd left my microbiology career and I was teaching, I went back to VOM because what I was doing, I did a thesis on using storytelling as a way of improving literacy in children. And I remember that woman I met at the National Veterinary Research Institute in VOM, who had come all the way from Birmingham. And this time I went back to Jos and I met someone who was from America. So here I was coming in from the UK to do my thesis, and she was coming in from the US, and we were doing the same thing. So it's always nice to collaborate with like-minded lecturers and professors from all around the world and maybe plan a trip where you can all go and work on a project in a different country. That's another way to get into teaching and traveling. Now, everything I've just named still involves teaching in the four walls of a classroom. Here are some other ways for you to teach and still travel without really being in a classroom. You could volunteer to go out to different parts of the world to teach. Today, I'm going to be sharing a few links where you can volunteer and travel at the same time. This is good. This could be good for people who are older, and it's always open to people between 18 and 50. So what's the big deal? You can even use that to get into teaching and enjoying and learning about people, and then come back to your home country, get the certification, or go out again and teach. You can do this as part of your gap year program. You can do this as part of a charity, because UNICEF, the British Red Cross, there's so many different charities out there who actually go and teach in different parts of the world. Remember, I said the United Nations has decided that we need 66 million teachers to fill up the teacher shortages. So, what are you waiting for? You can volunteer, and you'd get to travel. Imagine seeing yourself going to Fiji, or going to Spain, or going to Ecuador, or Ghana, any of those countries. You're there, you won't have any visa problems because you're going there to volunteer, and the volunteering company will put you through the pathway of getting your visa. And trust me, time is money. You're going to volunteer. Chances are the visas will be a walkthrough. I've done this before. I have a friend in the Netherlands who went to Malawi, and she enjoyed it immensely. I have a friend who started her career from Nigeria, and the first thing she did was to volunteer. So she went to Peru. It was fantastic. She spent 3 months there, learned how to actually be with the community, to teach, and housing was provided. They picked her up from the airport. It was all done in such a way that she decided after that she was going to be a teacher, and she's an international school teacher today. So that's something that you should think about as well when you want to teach and travel. All these things I've talked about today involve going through working for someone or going through an agency. But if I tell you that you can set up your own online business and be a teacher, you see, after COVID, a lot of children realized that they didn't want to go back into the four walls of a classroom. They'd enjoyed working from home, and they thrived. My daughter, for instance, was absolutely mortified when COVID was lifted, and she had to go back to school. She would have benefited from just staying indoors and just cracking on. Her grades improved tremendously when we're all on lockdown. She didn't miss a day of school. She was there like Sonic, doing all the things that she needed to do. It's not that she's not a social butterfly. She can be a social butterfly when she wants to be, but for her, it took away the stress of getting ready. She was just 13 at the time. It took away the stress of getting ready, choosing what to wear, doing something to her hair. She could just roll out of bed, turn on the computer, get cracking. At the end of the day, instead of commuting back home, she's at home already. She gets her homework done without being prompted. She was fine. Her grades improved so much when we were on lockdown. Now, many children around the world feel the same way. And because of that, there's been this birth of the online school system since after COVID, where children who really didn't want to go back into school can now be homeschooled, and that means it created a job for teachers who probably have children they're taking care of themselves, and so they need to still be earning while they're taking care of their children. And this other children who need teachers, it was a win-win situation. And so now you can teach online. What does this have to do with travel? Well, you see, there are countries in Europe who now, after they got rid of their golden visas, have now come up with something called the digital nomad visa. Greece, Portugal, Cyprus, Malta, they're all embracing digital nomad visas. So if you teach online, you can pack up your bags apply for a digital nomad visa and move to sunny Spain. I'm in sunny Spain right now and it's 8 o'clock. Yes, you heard me right. It's 8 o'clock. Today is the 16th of April and it's 8 o'clock right now. And you can tell from around me that it's still sunny. Can you imagine teaching here? I bet if you're in a frozen country right now, I will not name any one of them, you will want to be here and take advantage of this opportunity where you teach your students in the daytime or whenever, and then you spend the rest of the time at the pool. Win-win situation. Or you can be by the pool while you're teaching. So all you have to do to get these visas, it's either the digital nomad visa. Some countries have what they call the D7 visa. Some have the non-lucrative visa. Any one of these visas will do, where you can decide, you know what, I work online. All I need is a country with perfect internet connection. I'm a teacher, win-win situation. And if you're tired of working in one country with your digital nomad visa, you can move to another country visa free because you have a visa that opens up doors for you to travel. Now, the next area that we need to look at when you think about teaching and traveling is tutoring. Being a tutor is when you mention tutoring, people think that it's just that person who sits in a classroom and, you know, take maybe $20 an hour. Yes, you can do that. I know someone who has built her whole life. She became a single mom when her children were very young. I think she had a 2 year old and she had a 6 month old at the time. And she knew that childcare, especially if you live in Europe or if you live in the diaspora, you will know the biggest bane of our of our lives is childcare. Now she knew that childcare was going to be a problem for her, and she is a teacher. So what she did, her children are, I think the eldest is 25 now. What she did was that she designed this business which she created, and she was able to tutor children. She's not doing the online tutoring thing. She created a space in her house and children will always come to her house after school and she used to tutor them. She used to teach them how to play the piano, the flute, and the guitar. And she was really good at it. And she made a career out of it. So she's a teacher. What's the difference between this woman and a music teacher in a school? Mind you, she used to be a music teacher. So now she had her own business. And I remember she could take as many holidays at different times of the year as she wanted and beat all the prices. I mean, with her children, I'm sure she had to tailor her life around them and schooling and all of that. But that's something that you can do as a teacher and you can travel as well. Another thing you could do is to create digital content that will help you, that you will create your own curriculum around digital content, create workshops and other resources, and you can market this. You're still a teacher and you can travel because now you're not bound by being inside of a school. You can do it online, you can do it through blogs, through emails, and your life will change because traveling and teaching is possible and you can take advantage of this. The next thing to look at is to design what I call the unconventional accommodation experience or summer school experience. How can you do this? I know that I watched something recently on the news and it showed two women who had moved out from the UK to Spain and they had set up this summer school for language immersion for children who wanted to learn how to speak Spanish. So they know the market in the UK and they were now using that to bring children out to sunny Spain over the summer. Now think about the genius of this because summertime is one of the biggest times for parents where they're desperate to put their children somewhere. They're desperate for their children to be well looked after. And sometimes they pay for summer schools. Imagine you have a summer school and you're able to bring children out to immerse them in the language. In the daytime, they would do instruction, maybe they would do the language instruction. And then in the evening, they do activities. They could have story time. You could form a summer school with a friend. You can form two or three teachers can come together and form that summer school. You don't have to have the accommodation the whole year. You can just come up with a plan to maybe rent somewhere and then have that, have the summer school, and then they go back. And what you make from that summer school will last you the whole year. And then you can take advantage of countries who have the digital nomad visa. And then you're traveling and you're teaching. If you're not doing the summer school, then you might be somewhere else just enjoying your time, but you've made money from teaching. I know that there's a company in Nigeria that organizes people to come in from America, the UK, from different parts of the world, and they come there to learn Yoruba. You would find they would have the instruction, and then they would have the times when they go into the market, and then they'll have their graduation ceremonies, and it's really, really beautiful to look at. But that's something that you could do. Imagine you coming out of wherever you are right now, maybe probably a really frozen country, and you're thinking, oh, I could go set something up in Greece and teach them English and have a summer school, an English immersion program, and then have a holiday myself. So you're teaching and having a holiday. You will enjoy the best of both worlds. It's amazing. Trust me. I know. I know my son had this university lecturer who is Ghanaian. If you're watching this, we love you and we miss you. Yes, so this man is Ghanaian and he was being beamed into the classroom, my son's university, my son's lecture theatre in the UK. Can you imagine that? This man can up and move at any time because all he needs to know is his timetable, his laptop, and internet connection. So he could be teaching my son from Ghana today. Tomorrow he could be teaching my son from South Africa. As long as he can prove that he's making a living as a teacher or a lecturer or a university professor and teaching my son, he can live anywhere. So that's the beauty of teaching. You can teach and travel, and it's fantastic because the reason why I had a connection with that man was because it was my son's most it was the best year of my son's educational life because up until that point, he had never really been taught by an African teacher, by one, but that was when we were in Nigeria. So that's understandable. We're in the country where the teachers there are like him. But after that, he had not really had that opportunity before. So he really bonded with this teacher because for once in his life, he felt like, even though this man is Ghanaian and we're Nigerians, he felt a connection. This is my person. And this is why a lot of schools want people like us to come into the profession. So take advantage and be a teacher in any sphere. Think about what skill you have. Think about how your skill can be packaged into something. It could be content online. It could be you providing a service in form of a book. You could write a book and you can market it and then use that as your leverage to travel and promote your book. So yes, think about how you can use the skills you have as a teacher to get what you want and travel the world. If you come to the end of this video with me, thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope that with this video, it'll get the wheels in your brain moving and you can think about what service you can provide in teaching and you can market it and just teach and travel. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, especially in the world we live today. Thank you so much once again for joining me on this episode, and I look forward to receiving you in the next episode. Bye.